You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
The fourth and the final foundational military pact, the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geo-Spatial Cooperation, or BECA, has been signed between India and the US. Simply put, what this does is expand information sharing between the countries' armed forces. It allows India to gain access to geospatial data from the United States military satellites. And this could include nautical and aeronautical charts, satellite images, commercial and other unclassified imagery, geophysical, geomagnetic and gravity data, etc. And the US military has as much to gain from it as does India. In the backdrop of the upcoming US elections and the Indo-China standoff at the LAC, this crucial deal was signed in the third annual 2+2 ministerial-level talks attended by Defense Secretary Mark Esper, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. But what does it mean for India's defense? How can it amp up India's defense, especially in the context of the ongoing tensions with China? For this podcast, we spoke to Mr. Manoj Joshi, Distinguished Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shalbury. The negotiations over BECA have been going on for almost a decade and have been delayed over India's concerns about America's intentions and also concerns over giving access to classified information. But before this, India and the US had already signed 3 key basic agreements, which are the General Security of Military Information Agreement, or the GSOMIA, in 2002, the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, or LEMOA, in 2016, and the Communications Compatibility and Security Arrangement, or the COMCASA, in 2018. So what do each of these deals basically mean? Well, the GSOMIA provides for specific measures to ensure safeguarding critical information shared by the US government and its companies with the Indian government and defense PSUs. Now, LEMOA was signed in the same year when the US had elevated India to a major defense partner in 2016, signaling for greater strategic cooperation, and the LEMOA allows for militaries of each of these countries to access military facilities for supplies, refueling, spare parts. Basically, it's a logistical agreement where both the armies can reach out to the other for logistical support, and this too took a decade-worth negotiation. And finally, the COMCASA was signed when the late Sushma Swaraj was the External Affairs Minister, and this facilitated the use of high-end secured communication equipment to be installed on military platforms and enabled for quote-unquote greater communications interoperability between the militaries of India and the US. And now, with the differences between India and the US over BECA being ironed out, all the 4 agreements described as quote-unquote foundational agreements or quote-unquote enabling agreements by Washington have been signed. And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar addressed the media and highlighted the important areas of discussions from the 2+2 ministerial talks.
The 2+2 dialogue has a pole mill agenda that underlines our close bilateral relationship. Our national security convergences have obviously grown in a more multipolar world. We meet today to not only advance our own interests, but to ensure that our bilateral cooperation makes a positive contribution in the world arena. We are also committed to addressing together global issues ranging from HADR situations to maritime security and counterterrorism. As you have heard from my colleagues, the Indo-Pacific region was a particular focus of our talks. We reiterated the importance of peace, stability, and prosperity for all countries in this region. As Raksha Mantri stated, this is possible only by upholding the rules-based international order, ensuring the freedom of navigation in international seas, promoting open connectivity, and respecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states.
But what does BECA mean for India's defences taken together with COMCASA and LEMOA? Mr. Manoj Joshi weighs in.
BECA only means something for Indian defense in the sense when you take it together with COMCASA and LEMOA. What it means is that we have the building blocks of a larger Indo-US relationship. But these are only building blocks. Individually, these agreements may not be all that significant as being made out, As far as the LEMOA is concerned, it is important. They've certainly expanded the scope of the Indo-US defense relationship. As far as BECA is concerned, the kind of geospatial information that people are talking about, it is only if the US, we can say that the US can give us that information. That doesn't mean it will always give us that information. It means something that can be used for precise targeting, accurate satellite information, accurate geospatial information.
But the ongoing standoff with China in the backdrop also assumes some significance in the signing of this pact. Given China's aggressive behavior in the Himalayas right up to the South China Sea, the dialogue included discussions on an open and free Indo-Pacific region. A report on the Indian Express also said that at the meeting, the ministers talked about, quote, global situation and its contemporary challenges, end quote, and discussed, quote, shared concerns and interests including stability and security in Asia, end quote. Now, if you remember, the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had strong words for China after the deadly Galwan Valley clashes, and he had said that, quote, the Chinese took incredibly aggressive action and that the Indians have done their best to respond to that, end quote. And in the recent press conference, he continued with his tirade against the Chinese government. Listen in.
The challenge of defeating the pandemic that came from Wuhan also fed into our robust discussions about the Chinese Communist Party. Our leaders and our citizens see with increasing clarity that the CCP is no friend to democracy, the rule of law, transparency, nor to freedom of navigation, the foundation of a free and open and prosperous Indo-Pacific. I'm glad to say that the United States and India are taking steps to strengthen our cooperation against all manner of threats, and not just those posed by the Chinese Communist Party.
So what does it mean to be signing this deal in the context of the ongoing LAC standoff? Mr. Joshi says that it's important from the optics point of view.
I don't think it holds any significance for the ongoing LAC standoff. We are not in a warlike situation. We are not about to go to war. But it's important from the optics point of view. The fact that we have signed this agreement while this LAC standoff is going on. The fact that the US Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense are in India while this is going on, I think that is significant, certainly.
And speaking of counterbalancing Chinese military, both India and the US are also due to participating in the upcoming Malabar naval exercises, which will be held in the Indian Ocean next month. And this will include all members of what is called the Quad, which are US, India, Japan, and Australia. So stay tuned to the Quint for all updates. If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, Geo7, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts